All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Liven Up Festival, coming live here from Seattle, Washington. We are streaming on Founders Live, the social platform for entrepreneurs. And today we have Heather Wilde from Rocketeer. Say hello, Heather.
Hello, Nick. Hello, Founders Live.
How are you doing?
I'm doing great today.
Great. Thank you for joining us. Before we get started, I'm just going to say a little bit about some sponsors that we have that are gratefully helping us with bringing Founders Live to everyone around the world. And today we have Finanza, formerly known as Ideal CPA. They are a professional service firm delivering growth support services such as CFO, controller services, back-end support, bookkeeping, payroll, etc. And they also offer growth forums to small and medium-sized businesses as an alternative to more traditional part-time booking. You can find more information at idealcpa.com, and we're very happy that they're with us supporting what we do here at Founders Live. And with that being said, I want to again welcome Heather. And Heather, would you please just introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about Rocketeer and what you do?
Yeah, so I am a CTO and unicorn whisperer, which is a coach at the very minimum at Rocketeer, which is a company here in Las Vegas, Nevada, and also Sydney, Australia, and around the world. Rocketeer does coaching, mentoring, training, consulting in a unique blend to support entrepreneurs, teams, and ecosystems to help them be the best that they can be and maximize their potential to transcend awesome, like with their mindsets, beliefs, attitudes, to help define their purposes and values, and really just to get them set on their best path towards success.
That's amazing. That's amazing. And how long have you been with Rocketeer? And did you start it? Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, I'm one of the founding members of Rocketeer. I've been with the company officially for 2 years now, where I came over from a company called Evernote, which some of you may have heard of, where I was also one of the founding members.
How about that? Great app, very popular, and I'm sure a lot of our viewers are very familiar with it and probably use it. So that's congratulations on that. But so the background of this conversation, which we are calling it Finding Your Inner Unicorn, for people that are not familiar, I actually met Heather in Portland about 2 months ago, and she gave a talk around this inner unicorn concept. And so Heather, I would like you to share with us your discovery of what you're talking about. We hear unicorn used a lot now, so I'm not sure exactly what you're getting at. So please share with us what is the inner unicorn, and we're going to start dissecting that a little more.
Yeah, so a lot of people use the phrase unicorn. I mean, unicorn's being used to death, basically. And it's the way that people in our industry tend to use it is to mean $1 billion company, $1 billion valuation.
Audio. Yeah. Unplug and plug back in. Try that.
Hey.
There we go.
Okay.
We're back.
Yay. So people lose their sense of self with when they're going after $1 billion valuation. It's a hard life. It's a hard path, and unless once you try and go after that, it's very difficult to attain it, to keep going. So what I've tried to do is redefine unicorn. What it really is that you started down a path because you had an idea, you had a vision, you had a purpose. So, and that came from inside of you. So what it is that everybody is really good at something. Everyone is an expert at one thing. And that is the unicorn idea. That is the unicorn thing that can then help drive you through whatever you want to do in your life. And if you get in touch with that, then no matter what you're doing, whether it's going after a billion-dollar company or becoming a mother or a father or whatever, then you'll never lose contact with yourself. You'll never lose that sense of self. You can go and become the CEO of a great company, and during those ups and downs, you'll be able to weather the storm. So
yeah, so let's unpack that a second. I mean, how does one even start to identify what their uniqueness is? Like, what steps do you take people through to at least the first phase?
So one of the first things that I'll do is, partly I started to help people guide them through this when I was up in Portland, was you help people to understand what it is that makes them feel the most like them. So, for example, if you are somebody that comes alive when you're surfing, then I mean, any surfers that are watching this, they may suddenly they might have gotten chills. then but you're sitting at a desk at your job all the time. Like, you may just be sitting there wondering, oh my god, I can't wait until the next time I get to go to Hawaii and or Australia or wherever, because you're stuck at a desk and you can't juxtapose why am I here? But you can actually fix that. You don't need to become a surfer. You don't need to ditch your job and become a surfer. What you could do is just put a picture of a great person, yourself, on a great wave, or just watch 15 minutes of amazing videos a day, and suddenly you've locked yourself into that peak state, and you'll write the best code that you've ever written in your life. So understanding what it is about yourself that makes you makes you the best at what you can do in all parts of your life.
Interesting. And when you're saying someone putting a picture there, are you tapping into the mental, psychological, flow, if you will, if you're familiar with the term flow? I'm not sure who the psychologist was that brought that to popularity, but is that what you're saying? You're essentially telling someone to psychologically go somewhere else?
Yes.
To tap into, yeah. How does someone do that? How would, maybe walk us through what the process, if you're familiar, of that, me looking at that image on the wall, what is it doing to me?
So what you're doing is you're rewiring the neural pathways of things. So because a lot of us tech people are geeks, most of us have read at one point in our lives A Wrinkle in Time. And the easiest way to show this is, say you've got a line, and here is where you start. This is where you are when you're sitting at your desk, and you're oh, I have this code to write. Oh my god, it's annoying. Over here is the code is done. Now what you're trying to do is, if now you're thinking about surfing, suddenly the code is you've just ignored all of the annoying bits of I have to get myself into the state of writing the code, because over here is the euphoria of I finished the code. Over here is the oh my god, I have to write the code. Now over here is the euphoria, the same euphoria that you get from surfing. So all you have to do is rewire yourself to what else do I feel? How else do I feel like this? Oh, when I'm surfing. Done.
Done. Right. Easier said than done, but
well,
I love the analogy.
It sounds. When you actually say easier said than done, it's actually easier done than said.
You're right. Right.
Because and it's I mean that's why you have coaches like me to help you learn how to do that. It's like how people get over smoking and things like that. You replace it. I mean, first they replace it with gum or eating or something else. You replace one habit with another, and with
Yeah.
this, it's actually more healthy. In Japan, people like businesses actually spend 15 minutes a day watching videos of cats.
Wow.
Uh, because it just takes, like, it's like they work for 90 minutes, watch 15 minutes a day of cats, and then continue to work because it changes the brain to make them, to fill them with happy
Right.
endorphins so they can
Yeah.
continue.
Way better than watching the news currently.
Yes.
That don't get me started on that. But so what I would like to do is transition a little bit towards. Okay, so someone has identified this unicorn in themselves. How do they leverage that into building a valuable company or personal brand or just general? What's the next step after you've identified this?
So say you find out that like the thing that you're really really good at, the thing that like you are the expert in, is something that you actually want to turn into a business. So like you are the best person in the world at being like making jam or something. Which up in Portland, I met somebody that was amazing at making jam.
Wow.
Yeah. So now this person is like, okay, well, I'm it. I'm going to go all in. So now they can turn this into a business by like what I like to say is make sure that you can. The idea isn't tied to like it's jam. The idea needs to be instinctual. Like people need to understand it without you telling them, without you spending hours and hours and hours saying like, oh my God, my jam is all about this and I put all this stuff in it. Like it can't be the hipster trope of we had the goat that we fed since it was a little child and you know.
Yeah, it can't be that.
No, I mean it needs to stand on its own outside of you. Um, so yeah, so like once you figure out what you're really good at, other people need to feel that passion from you.
Yes. And
And
that's like essentially you're getting into branding. Would you agree?
yes, yeah, and that branding, it needs to. I mean, again, it needs to flow outside of you. Like even if you are the brand, you can't be the brand. It needs to live on its own. So, and people need to understand, and I know this is very complicated, that what I'm saying, and very confusing. So an example would be um, Louis Vuitton. Can you tell me what Louis Vuitton looks like?
No.
Exactly. But you could probably pick a Louis Vuitton out of a lineup
Right.
because the Louis Vuitton brand stands for something. Like Trump, a lot of people until recently didn't know what Donald Trump looked like, but
Agreed.
they knew
Yeah.
the brand Trump.
So what is a brand in your mind then?
So a brand is like when I'm gonna stick with Trump here outside of like the political person candidate.
Yeah.
Like when I say the word Trump, people immediately understand it to mean luxury, fine,
Yeah.
rich. And that is actually where people are running into trouble right now with the political candidate. Like, but instinctually, like the branding has been built up because like a brand is something that you feel
Right.
without having to explain it.
And so are you saying that we think about those words for Trump because over time there's just been a select few of descriptive words or experiences that they've just hammered home all the time? I mean,
It's yeah. I mean
yeah.
that's. I mean it's what has been like the brand has been associated with very specific things that people want to understand. I mean, and the not just the descriptive phrases, but I mean, Trump best is almost in every single sentence.
Yeah. Yeah. So, when I think of brand, just the concept, what comes to mind is branding is everything about your specific service, product, app, whatever. It's the entire experience.
Mm-hmm.
And it's from not just the look and feel of the app, the design, the logo,
Mm-hmm.
but it's their feeling that someone gets when they're what's really interesting is the moment someone opens your application, let's just stick on technology and mobile app, for instance.
Yes.
What's the first 2 seconds? Are they feeling scared? Are they feeling love? Are they
Mm-hmm.
feeling connectedness? That is brand, right? And so
Yes.
how do entrepreneurs find? So we're going to tie this together. How do they take the inner unicorn that they might have discovered, and then if let's say they have a company, how does that intertwine into the brand that a user or a customer would actually have or the feelings that they want to connect? How does that all come together?
So what comes together, it is a very, very strong process. You have to be starting very from the beginning to take the the vision of the company, the culture of the company, and the design all together, along with the experience, as you said, that you want the customer to feel. And part of that is really strong persona mapping. You have to know exactly who your customer is. Like if you want if your customer is 35-year-old girl that's going to be attending happy hours on Friday afternoons in a very specific kind of bar, then you want to be like, okay, well, so we're making this app for Mary. What kind of app will Mary want to use? And then, so, okay, well, what kind of app will Mary have on her phone that she'll actually open up and still be using in a bar rather than looking at the guy across the counter? Okay, so
Right.
now we know where to go and ask Mary. See what's on her phone to design that.
Yeah.
and then so it comes, like, you actually have to go down and do user surveys to find that out, because like these are real people that you're designing for, and then you can work backwards. So and that's something that a lot of people actually forget. Like, they design stuff for people without actually working in the people part.
Yeah. And just let's stay on that concept real quick. What do you when you coach or you're helping other clients, what do you tell them in terms of when they're looking at customer, or just the segmentation, the people discovery before you even build? What sort of steps would you encourage entrepreneurs to take in that specific area?
Absolutely take lots of user surveys. I tell people, don't even start to build until you've had at least 200 responses to your user surveys. 200 is the bare minimum. I prefer to have at least 1,000. And when people are like, oh, no, 1,000's way too many, I'm like, then you're not even trying. I don't even want to deal with you unless, because I've seen people that have built an entire app that haven't even talked to a single customer. And
Right.
And they're like, because I know people better, I know this problem and I know somebody will want it. I'm like, yeah, but you're never going to get anybody to pay unless you actually are willing to talk to people. So yeah.
What sort of questions would they be asking? Clearly it's unique to specific apps or businesses or whatnot, but what are they looking for when they're talking to these people?
So the general thing is, okay, so say you've identified a gap in the market of some kind, because why would you be developing something unless you have, right? So you've identified a problem that needs solving, or a need that needs filling. You go around and say, hey, uh, do you notice that there's something here? What kinds of things do you feel would be better? What problems do you see? Like, would you happen to like if this was available? How much are you willing to pay? Those are the very minimum things that I would ask somebody.
And would you encourage closed or open questions in this environment?
Open in general, like the earlier you are, definitely open because you want to get ideas. The longer, like as you start to develop, definitely closed. Like, so once you actually have, like at the very, very early stage, you want open questions because you're still in the brainstorm stage. And especially if you're only one person or just one or two people, then you can use the world as the rest of your team. But then once you have narrowed in on your topic and you know exactly what you want to build, then close the feedback loop from other people, and then trust the outside world only to tell you what you're doing wrong.
Okay, and so what comes to mind is Steve Jobs has said, he based, I'm not going to even try to repeat the quote, but he pretty much said, the customer doesn't know, I know. Henry Ford has said the same thing. So what you're suggesting, though, is for people to really survey and look for what the market is desiring, and they're going to lead you that direction in various ways, and it's up to the founder to kind of distill and find, oh, they're talking about that. They're talking about this problem that is not being solved. Is that what you're saying?
So it's talking about the like when you're initially surveying, yes, like, but when it's the later on that Ford's talking about, like once you've already decided what you want to build, then stop listening to people because you've made the decision. Okay. But early on, because you don't really know for sure that there's market validation.
Right.
But once it's been validated.
Yeah. And how would one know that they have hit market validation? Or to say it differently, we're kind of skipping ahead, but like product market fit. What are the signals that tell someone, okay, we've hit this market, there is this problem that we have a solution for?
One of the easiest ways is to see that there's competitors. If there's 2 or 3 other companies that are out there that are doing the same thing, that's usually good. And yes, that is a good thing. Yeah. Especially if somebody's gotten funding for it, because now not only is there competition, but now they've set a price on how much it's worth.
There you go.
If you are, so I mean, the worst thing that you can possibly say is, oh, I have no competitors, because that's terrible for product validation. You always want to have competition because it's good. And another thing is that you've got people that are out there that are another way to tell that you have market validation is that even if there are no direct competition, that there are like patents out there that are being filed for that kind of thing. So like nobody's actually necessarily working on it, but somebody's thinking about it. Especially if it's a major company or somebody like Intel, like one of the scientists might have filed a patent that has nothing to do with them, but they were just like, oh, well, I just filed this. So, and they do that a lot. Like the scientists just for fun might file it, and then it's available for tech transfer, which is a very interesting thing.
Yes, this earlier conversation with Johnny, he brought up a similar idea around, he said one of the mistakes he sees is when entrepreneurs try to reinvent the wheel. And so when you think about innovation, you can think about it in a couple ways. One is doing a whole new thing, a whole random new idea, really, quote, innovating on this whole crazy new idea. The problem is, like you just mentioned, if there's no competitors or there's no similar experiences or products, you actually might not get traction because people don't know what the heck you're building. The other side of it, what he mentioned was just working on a better solution that is already out there. And so when people come to you, do you have do you kind of push them one direction or the other about all brand new innovation, or in a competitive environment just doing it better than what is already out there?
It's, I mean, you always want to do things incrementally better. Because what's the point of doing something if you're not going to do it better, right? Um, the then so that's what I'm always telling people, if you're gonna do something, do it. Like, if you're going to do something, definitely at least try to be different in some way, try to be unique, try to just do it better. But that said, you may not be able to come up with your own spin, in which case try and join up with the people that are already doing it. Because if it's something you want to do, then you might just want to tag on to a great visionary leader.
Well, you know, so one of the questions I listed was how do we differentiate ourselves from competitors? And the angle I want to take here is, how do you merge your inner unicorn? Because if you go back to your definition, that's your new uniqueness. You might be building the same app as the competitor, but your uniqueness is actually the unicorn. So how do you merge that to then differentiate between that competitor over there?
So I'll take this. So when we started Evernote, there were a lot of note-taking platforms out there already. In fact, there was a big one that had a very similar name called OneNote. And even to this day, everyone asks this question, and there's always like, how is OneNote different from Evernote? Like, why would I use OneNote over Evernote? I mean, for 10 years, people have been asking that question. I mean, it's like, the thing is, Evernote is its own thing. Evernote, like what the people at Evernote have done really, really well. Our background is from security. Like, the reason we formed that company. Actually, the reason we formed the company before Evernote was because of September 11th. We really, really cared about, we didn't want another September 11th, so we created a company that made really secure door locks that are now, like, all around the world. The software we made is in locks everywhere around the world. And we came from that background and wanted to make a secure storage space for memories.
That's cool.
And so, it wasn't a note-taking company. It was a secure file vault for your brain, an external brain. And so when you take the uniqueness and the background of the people, of the team, all together, and their place, like, it's like, so OneNote is part of an Office suite, and it always will be, and it always, I mean, that's what it is. And so Evernote is never going to be OneNote. It's never going to try. But what it is a replacement for your brain. So that's how you take your uniqueness. That's how you stand out. And the people that get that are the people that use it.
Right. Yeah. That's an amazing story. I did not know the history of the team was in that direction, and then you created Evernote. Let's stick on that experience. And so, can you describe from the moment of that idea of it's your brain essentially, and then the moment it kind of took the turn of, okay, we have market validation, oh my gosh, this is something, it's growing. Like, at what point did you experience that, and is there a few things that you might have done, the team might have done, to take the transition to growth?
So it was really interesting. When we started, like, we were always big on metrics, like about like watching the reports, the daily reports, and everything, and especially from all around the world, because we were a multinational team right from the beginning. We had an office in Moscow and we were very distributed. Like, I was in Mexico actually, and that's another story. So, I mean, like the actual founder was in Mexico as well with me, and it was a so we were watching where the users were coming from, and we noticed there was a big spike in Japan. And
Interesting.
yeah, and we weren't doing any advertising in Japan, and there was the software wasn't even translated into Japanese, and it certainly wasn't formatted in a way for that. But we'd made it so that it was a beautiful UI, and so we started to send our CEO over to Japan to do some more just some outreach and everything, and it started to work. We started to pick up not just Japan, but Singapore, Taiwan, China, and then we started to grow from Japan throughout Asia and then back to America, and that's how it grew. But what it was that we picked up the voice of the customer. We paid attention to the customers and what they wanted, and that's how the company grew. If we had just been following some kind of traditional marketing, some traditional rollout plan, then it never would have taken off.
So Phil, was it Phil at the time?
Yeah.
Yeah. So he actually, you're saying that he went over there, and did he like sit with those customers and those users and just ask them questions and just pull the information out from them?
Yeah, we started to do meetup groups, and he doesn't speak Japanese, but so we got Hitoshi Hakamura. He was the president of Apple Japan at the time, so he signed up with us, and he joined to be the head of Evernote Japan, and he just, it would be the two of them going back and forth, and Hitoshi would translate for Phil, and Phil always joked that someday he wants to do a Japanese whiskey commercial, like in Lost in Translation.
That's awesome.
Because I mean, he's just such a big guy, and going around in Japan where everyone's so much smaller, it was a very very surreal experience.
That's really interesting, and what I take from that is, yeah, he just went straight to the user and learned about them, understood them, and probably to the level that he can say, okay, they like this, they don't like that, they would like this. And what I think we see, and look, I'm guilty of it at times, where as a founder you tend to say, no, I know what I'm building, I know it's my vision and it has to be this way. But I actually use an analogy of a cube. Okay, and this cube I'm holding in my hand has, let's call it 6 sides, but on this plane it's got 4. And the thing is, I'm viewing this cube and I'm like, no, it's a blue cube. But sometimes it takes a third outside person to turn my hand around and look at the other. Oh my gosh, it's a green. This side of the cube is green. I was looking at the cube and it only showed blue. And that is, whether it's a rough analogy, it basically is saying that what you see in your mind is not always, even on your own app, is not always what others see and find valuable. And that's basically what Phil did, was he went to that community and that group of the users, the ones that are using it the most and they're valuable, and he's asking them, he's having them do this. Tell me what you use. Tell me what's valuable to you and why. And that is like such an important thing as an early stage founder, that actually, before you build anything or you have a MVP, you actually do that work. And the reason I'm guilty of it too, because it's easy to not do it.
Yeah,
It's
absolutely.
to be lazy and be like, no, we're just building it and we'll launch it and we'll from there. And so I appreciate you sharing that, because I think it's valuable to a lot of people to really understand, whoa, maybe that's why Evernote grew, is because Phil put in the effort, and the team, the entire team, you guys put in the effort to actually know who your users are and what they value.
Yeah. And here's a perfect example of what you were just saying. Um, what side of the cup is the handle on?
Oh, it's the left, obviously.
But it's on the right.
That is that is called perspective, right?
Yes.
And
Yes.
so, as a perspective, as a founder, what's more important, yours and being right in your mind, or actually going and learning from the people that are going to make you and your company successful as you grow it, right?
Yes.
That is awesome. So, for early stage founders out there that are probably if not already, working on their company, what would you say is maybe the first and second step for them to get deep into what they should be looking for as their inner unicorn, as their uniqueness?
So, I the it depends on which way they're trying to go. If they're specifically thinking about what am I good at for in a business sense, then what they should be doing is going through like a guided process, like actually like close their eyes like I'm doing right now and start thinking about um, what what makes me feel most fulfilled. What do I really enjoy doing? What where do I like? Do I really enjoy working with a team? Like, start asking themselves a whole lot of questions about like where do they fit? What do they like to actually do? And then keep going until they get it down to just like one or two or no more than three actual words and some feelings about like and some images in their head of like what does that look like if they want to just think about like whole life, where do they fit in the world,
Yeah,
then start thinking like where have they felt the most fulfilled, where have they felt the most happy, like what is the happiest moment that they've ever had in their life, like was it when their child was born, was it when they were surfing, was it like a day where they were hiking in the woods or something, and like just keep going and thinking like things like that, like start asking yourself questions like that, again like eyes closed, just maybe some music on, something like that. Like for me it's like I'm really at peace like at music concerts and stuff, like in a big crowd of like 30,000 people, just being alone together with a whole bunch of people, that
yeah.
kind of a thing. And that feeling can then drive me with whatever I'm doing. Like that joy that you get in that crowd of people, like I bring the music to whatever I do.
Interesting. Um, and then in just more general speaking, in terms
Yep.
of starting a company, what are your directives, or at least some a few ideas on, if someone wants to start a company, what is the first or second step that they
Yeah.
should?
So the first step that you should take, well, the practical step is, do I have enough money to sustain myself for a minimum of 8 months? So like, how much will it take me? Like, how much can I actually live on for 8 months? Do I have a couch to sleep on? Like, I mean, like, what does it really take for me to live for 8 months? Like, and everyone has different standards for this. So, like, for some people, they'll be like, okay, well, I need $100,000 in the bank for me to feel comfortable. For other people, it'll be like, okay, well, I have 8 friends whose couches I can rotate, and I mean, and I'm completely serious about
Yeah.
this. Like, So I mean, up in Portland, there's tent cities. So obviously, there's different levels of what people will deal with. In Also different metro areas. So like, but you need to do first thing is set out the practical finance of the next like year of your life, because like starting a business will take at least 6 months before you see any return on it at all.
Yeah.
And then the next 4 months are what I call the oh crap months.
Been
Because
there.
yeah, because that's when you're like, you have to make a decision of, am I going to keep doing this, or do I have to go get a real job?
Yeah. And do you think that do you think it's better to, let's just say they don't have the $100,000 in the bank, do you think it's okay for them to work, full-time job and do the startup on the side and do that for X amount of months or years? Or do you think it's a better position successfully wise to actually just make the leap and deal with like the consequences?
It depends on the person, and that's part of the initial set. I mean, like that's something that you have to decide like when you're starting. Like I myself am not a leaper. I'm someone that like I have to have like constant money coming in,
Right.
and I know that about myself. But there's other people that are all or nothing people. Yeah. And like they'll feel that they're failing themselves if
Yeah.
they don't take that leap. Like if
Yes.
and that's, you have to know which one you are. Like for me, I need to have the security of health insurance but then I'll work 120 hours a week to make sure that I'm giving all that I can to both things.
Yeah.
So
It's basically impossible, but good luck on that. Yeah.
But I've done it my
Yeah.
entire career. So, I mean,
No, it's possible in your life.
yeah, I mean, anyone just needs to look at my LinkedIn to see all of the overlapping stuff that I have done.
Yeah.
So, it's a there's a lot of it's just something that you need to learn how to. You need to learn about yourself and figure out the practical finance first. Once you've done that, then you choose like where you want to go. But there's absolutely no way that you can set out without getting that security taken care of first.
Right.
Because it'll just be in your head. Like there's something called Maslow's hierarchy of needs.
Yes.
Are you familiar with this? For those who aren't, it basically says you have to take care of, like at the very bottom layer, you have to take care of basic things like food, shelter, safety first before you can do anything else. And
Yeah.
if you don't, then you're always going to be wondering, like
Right.
you're just going to be scrambling down there. So.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. So I'm the all or nothing. I'm the leaper, and I also experience the Maslow's hierarchy, and sometimes those specific ones they were threatened,
Yeah.
and I'm better for it through the process of learning, but I definitely struggled in that area, and you're kind of stuck in this like, well, I just need to jump and go and build this thing. But then if those are like necessities. If they're not met, you aren't right up here.
Right.
And so you're not only right, you're not right psychologically, you're clearly not right in the day-to-day business. And so in the end, it actually just puts you in a bad situation. And I've been there. And I think I'm just the person that sometimes just has to go through it and learn. And okay, now I know what to do. And I went through that process. I'm better for it. But I don't. When I talk to founders and entrepreneurs around Seattle specifically, but other parts of the world too, I do in other ways give them a similar advice as you, which is it depends on who you are. But I also very much caution them on, if you make wrong decisions, you could really financially screw yourself up, and you could really mess up your life. And understand those. And I think that it does take the preparation of financials. It takes the time to think about how you progress enough outside of the job that you currently have, and then know at some point you are going to have to take that leap, right? You do at some point have to fully commit, jump, and really get into the business. And so, at what point do you think that is?
Again, that's going to be different for every person, but like you just have to trust your instincts. Like for me, with Evernote, it was when we hit 10 million users.
10 million?
Yeah.
And what was the period of time between launch and 10 million?
So, I mean, I was full time at Evernote the whole time, like more than full time, but like I didn't give up the other job until probably 2.5 years in.
Okay. And so you literally, when you say you were you doing like contract work or kind of side stuff?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so at that point, 10 million in growth, you said, okay, I am fully secure to make this move and know that we have something.
Yep.
Okay. And so, yeah, clearly it could be relatively different for other people, but what you're suggesting is a feedback of traction, growth, security from maybe financial investment business.
I mean, I think we were Series D at that point in time. I mean, it was like there was definite money here.
Wow, you definitely need that major security before you.
Well, I mean, I was fine to jump in like when we had no money. I mean, we almost shut the company down a whole bunch of times because like I like working with the teams, and I work with teams that have no money at all. Like I'll jump on, like I'll be the first person in a company, but like it's a I just know that equity means nothing. Equity is worth basically toilet paper.
Yeah. And then sometimes it turns into gold toilet paper, but
yeah.
Cool. Well, we're about to wind down here, but I want to jump into a few random questions. And is there, off the top of your head, is there any resources that seem to be like very impactful to you right now, that like blog posts, articles, others that you seem to be reading a lot more, or just really add value to your life?
Well, something that's really interesting is that I've been spending a lot of time on Quora. So like I've been using it. I started out doing it as an accountability exercise for people that I coach, and I ended up becoming a top writer completely by accident. Yeah, I know. But there's just so many different topics and just so much great content on there that like that happens to be like my front page of the internet for me. So that's like, of all of the micro blogs that exist, that's the one that I'm on the most.
And are you using Quora as a research or as a writing tool?
Both. I mean, but I mean, just the wealth of different topics and things that people are writing about. I mean, just recently my feed has been overwhelmed with Game of Thrones theories and stuff. And I mean, but it's just so fun.
Started.
Yeah, I know. But all of the like random things that people are writing about, like who would have died, like would Tyrion, Varys, or Littlefinger have died in the Sept if they were there? Like, would they have ended up there? Like random theory. It's like it's awesome.
And how about any podcasts that you tend to listen to frequently?
I never miss the Joe Rogan podcast. I love the WTF podcast and the Memory Palace podcast.
Oh, that's great. Those are great. How about what would be your morning routine and why?
My morning routine is that I wake up, I curse at the cat. And I'm sure we all have some similar part of that. And then I try and clear out all of my just all of my social media that I can, so that I don't have to check it again until later in the evening. And then I just, I mean, I basically do something that looks a lot like this to just clear my mind, and then I get up for the day.
That's great. Yeah, I about a year ago I started meditating, and I pretty much every day, 10, 15 minutes. It's not a lot, but it's been tremendous just in terms of, I guess, peacefulness and living in the moment,
Yes.
and bringing a little bit of centeredness to my life. So I love that. Morning routines are great. So last thing is, who has had the biggest impact in your life up to this point, and why?
This is gonna sound probably strange, but Douglas Adams. I know he's dead, and some would say probably fictional, but no, he's
Right. Please share for the ones who are not aware.
yeah. Yeah, so Douglas Adams was an amazing comedy writer, not fictional. I mean, he wrote fiction, but he was a real person. He died, unfortunately, mid-90s. He wrote The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, the Dirk Gently novels, and wrote many things for the BBC. And one of my favorite books of all time, Last Chance to See, which was incredibly life-changing for me. Many people have never heard of it, but if you can find the documentary that the BBC did with Stephen Fry on the 10th anniversary of his death, it was amazing. But it basically, he was an atheist, which I am not, but he was a conservationist, a comedy writer, science fiction person, just crazy amazing. Just he changed my life in so many ways, and yeah, so just really, really amazing. And if you haven't read him, then definitely do.
I'll have to read. I have not read those, so thank you. And so with that, we are going to say thank you to Heather Wilde. And Heather, where can people find you?
Everywhere. No, I am, so Rocketeer.com, that's Rocketeer, which thankfully Google is now indexing properly.
There we go.
2 years. Thank you, Google. Also, my Twitter is Heathriel, Heathriel, or I'm on LinkedIn, Heather Wilde, with an E, like Oscar. But I'm pretty much available anywhere, any platform you can find me.
Great. Thank you again, Heather. And I want to say thank you to our sponsors, Finanza. And I also want to give a shout out and thank you to WeWork. That's where I'm at in Seattle here. And so grateful for WeWork to provide this co-working space and the great background that you see behind me. So that is it for the conversation with Heather Wilde. Thank you so much, and signing off for a little while.
Thank you, Nick.
Bye.